Welcome in, football fans. We're the St. Louis Syndicate. I'm Nate. He's Brandon, and we're here to break down the games of the week, talk a little bit about last week, and of course, get to your survivor picks for the week. Brandon, how'd you do this week, man?
On average, not too bad.
Yeah.
I was very unhappy with several of my picks, but it turns out that everybody had problems last Super contest. One guy got 4 picks. Everybody else was in 3s and 2s.
Yeah.
Like it really evened out, especially with Chicago not being able to cover. How did yours end up looking?
Yeah, I had a rough week this week, man. It was one of those times where I didn't feel good and it matched my play. I was happy everybody else had a rough week too, only for my picks. Though I never really wish ill will on anybody. In this particular instance, it was better for my pocketbook to make sure that I wasn't the only one out there just floundering in the wind. What do we think's causing this, man? Is we were talking about a little bit earlier, and honestly, it's like these favorites just keep covering, and that's fine. I think I find myself this week leaning more towards some of the favorites, and I don't know if that's my mindset changing or if my numbers are adjusting as well. But the favorites covering is definitely causing some angst because I'm having trouble guessing which of the dogs are going to
Yeah.
cover. Because we know that's going to happen, right? Some of them are going to happen. And in reality, the way traditional gambling and our betting has gone, more dogs tend to cover. And that's just because of the way that the Vegas books works and the odds and the leans. And when you talk about Sandman Sports, right? He locks these things in on Tuesday. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's an early lock in. Usually you can find some edges and stuff in there, but it's not translating well right now to where the favorites are not switching. They're still covered. What are you thinking on this?
Yeah, I don't so I was on Sandman yesterday and I brought up one of my hot takes was that the fact that no unders are hitting is just ruining everything. It just like, I that's kind of more a Ben Harper pool sort of situation for me than the NFL side because I don't do a lot of over unders on the NFL side, but it goes hand in hand that like you should be leaning towards underdogs and unders because the public historically has leaned on laying the points, taking the overs, rooting for what they can imagine to happen instead of taking ugly games, which on average, you usually get a bunch of ugly games because ultimately this is a bunch of grown men playing each other and they're playing as hard as they can. I don't know. Eric brought up a good point that he thinks that there's maybe some drag on the defenses because teams are going for it more. And since they're not just giving in and punting, that more drives are preserving and continuing on and turning into some amount of points, and that the lines may not be adjusting enough for that yet because of the way that we work priors in and you try to mute big swings in the lines and all that sort of stuff that you go, hey, mathematically we usually come back to the center, but I don't know if we're breaking away from that now and that it's going to take a considerable amount of time to get off of these favorites and these overs just hitting at a way higher percentage than they should.
You
What do
know,
you think about that?
that's interesting because honestly, I think Eric's onto something, and God forbid I gotta agree with Eric, but he's really he's really onto something there. I would take it one step further, and of course, I haven't heard the recording yet because it hasn't been released yet. But I would go one step further and say that the defenses are tired. And
Yeah.
so at the end of the game, we're seeing more of a flurry of points. So probably my data analytics mind says that I should go look and see if fourth quarter scoring is up. And that would be reflective upon defenses that are tired because they've stayed on the field longer during the first three quarters because they're going for it more, right? So when it's, they're not getting off the field, they're not getting their blow, they're not coming in as refreshed. That being
Yeah.
said, we all watch the red zone, or if you're diehard weirdos like we are, you do. And it's
Right.
funny that Scott Hansen comes on and he says it's the witching hour where wins become losses and losses become wins. And that's one of their trademark sayings. And it's kind of funny because I'm getting to the point now where I could go into these games and like start watching them at halftime because the first half doesn't mean all that much towards the end of the outcome of the game as much as that fourth quarter and how all these things change. Now, I watched the entire game because I like to see how offenses are doing, defenses are doing, what the officials are
Yeah.
like. I'm a weirdo, but I think when you think about that, that fourth quarter has been magnified more for points being scored and swayed because receivers are running up and down the field more. You're not seeing the same pressure on the quarterbacks because the defensive linemen are big old heavy guys that are tired after having been on the field for three quarters without their blows. And so there's your points up, right? So that's causing your unders to be in challenge, but it's
Yeah.
also causing maybe the lesser team to not cover the score because the stronger team is just having more opportunities to
Pulling away.
yeah, they're pulling away. And so they're covering. So when you
Yeah.
add all this up, it kind of points to overs and favorites.
Yeah. Which kills me because it's going to adjust. Like we're slowly going to creep. One of our favorite games is the team that I've just been harping on for weeks now because the line isn't adjusting. But if they all of a sudden jumped it up to where we thought it was,
Yeah.
it would. I don't know. I honestly I don't know what the argument is because you you would get a flurry of betting on the underdog.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it matters because you're still at a above 50% play. If you go, hey, I like this team at 5.5, and they go, all right, we're going to make it 9.5. Well, everybody that does numbers is going to go, well, what the hell? I'll take the 9.5.
Yeah.
Kind of what we were talking about with the Chargers in Tennessee. Tennessee's locked in at 10.5. The line's moved down to 8.5. Pre-2025, that's a lock. I don't care who that other team is. I go, give me the 10.5. That's above a 56% play.
Right.
But now you can't ignore the fact that when you look at Tennessee in the aggregate, they are underperforming their line by an average of 7.5 points.
Yeah.
So how do you just give Cam Ward the ball and go out there, deal with Herbert being able to throw the ball all over the field? And the only reason they've had problems is when the defense can get in their face. Tennessee doesn't have a defense.
No.
So what do you want to do? You just want to bet that because the Chargers have to go outdoors and across the country that they're going to fall apart? And they can. It can happen, but it's real hard to hold your nose now and go, I'll take the 10.5 points against the team that we have now watched for 8 weeks fail spectacularly,
Yeah.
not really show any heart at any point. And you just go, what are you supposed to do with that? Now, the square bettors are going to go, Chargers. Hey, they've been playing well most of the time. We'll just lay the 10.5 points. And it's slightly demoralizing to sit and go, yeah, no, I can go through and just pick all the favorites.
Right.
What's the point of doing this? Like, what are we doing here if we just go down the card and go, yeah, I'll take New England and Detroit and Green Bay and Indy and the Rams and Seattle and Dallas, and
That
you just go down and just go like,
sounds like all my favorites this week. You just listen
yes,
to
you
everybody
just
I'm
go, hey,
playing. I must be a
everybody
square.
gets well, but it's hard to battle from that at this point
Yeah.
because when you go, give me the explanation of where Carolina on the road keeps it within 13 points of Green Bay.
Oh.
Bryce Young becomes a superhero. Jordan Love falls in a ditch on the way to the stadium. Like, what's the play where we just watched Green Bay bury Pittsburgh, and now a worse team is coming to town?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Like, yeah, you can backdoor cover. They score at the end of the game. They ruin it. But if you are at 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter and Green Bay isn't winning by 17 points, you're going to go, there was some weird shit that happened this week. That's the only expectation, is that you go, oh, that was odd. And you'll be able to pick out the plays and go like, oh, remember that guy fell down and his shoes fell off and the guy just ran away? Like, you're like what happened here where they gave up the extra touchdown or two? So that's where it makes it difficult, where in past years you just go, hey, look, half the time when you're trying to lay double digits, the underdog is going to score first, and you're going to be sitting there in the first quarter with your team needing to win by 12, down 7 or 10 to 0, and going, oh, now I need them to score 3 straight touchdowns. And you go, okay, now I'm in a pretty good position here. But that ain't happening this year. That's not what's going down.
No, I would be curious. Okay, so you just hit on something and it sparked my mind, and you probably just saw my ADHD run off the table as my eyes started spinning, and as you're like, he's only kind of listening to what I'm saying, but you got me all excited. We need to do some
Formulating
analysis.
the thought.
Behrman, I need a statistical analysis. My assistant to come help me. So here's what we got to look up, Brandon. And I think this is a disservice if we can't figure this out to our listeners, all 4 of them.
Okay.
We need to get the numbers of backdoor covers in the last 5 years. And the trend of going for it on fourth down has been strong the last 3 years. And I want to know if backdoor covers have drastically reduced since the fourth down conversions have increased, thus leaving the defense on the field longer, thus keeping the unders in play more, or getting rid of the unders, thus having defenses tired.
Yeah.
So you got to do this 2 ways. First thing you got to do is identify all backdoor covers. Second, identify the fluke backdoor covers versus a real backdoor cover where somebody actually drives down and scores a touchdown, like the block kick
Yeah.
nonsense we had a few weeks ago. I'm going to throw that out as an outlier, right? It is a backdoor cover,
right.
but I want to throw that out. And then see, traditionally, do we have to worry about backdoor covers anymore now that these offenses are staying on the field longer and making the defenses tired? Thus,
Yeah.
the scores
It
are
is
more
interesting because you're exactly right that even when they're up now, they just go, oh, it's 4th and 3. I'm on the other side of the field, even if it's the 45. Oh, we'll just get the 3 yards and we'll keep the ball.
and we'll run the clock
Instead of punting it. Yeah, we'll run the clock down, or we'll, run it down to the point that we can kick a field goal and end the game, or, whatever. But
Well, they used to do that too.
anecdotally, there's way more of that going on where they go, hey, that used to be the genius of the unders, is you had a team that once you got to the fourth quarter, especially in college, and, again, since my methodology isn't fucking working this year, we might as well just talk about it a little bit. But these unders worked so well in college because you had 2 situations. You had a team that was way better than the other team,
Yeah.
They got out to a bunch of points. The team that was losing basically quits. The team that's winning just runs the ball the entire second half. The second half takes 40 minutes total and it's over. And if they get to a fourth down, they kick. The other team throws one pass, runs a couple of times, they punt it back. And now or you have two pretty evenly matched teams and they were afraid to screw up a fourth down. So it was this, we're fighting over the 50-yard line for
Yeah.
the entire second half because, hey, we're up by 3 points. We don't want to turn the ball over on the 44-yard line and have these guys within 30 yards of kicking a field goal. Hey, we'll punt it deep. We'll try to hold them where they now just go, oh, we have a 3-yard play. We'll just do it. And then we'll keep the ball and we're eventually going to score instead of the entire second half being drastically lower than the first half, especially in these off card games that I preyed on. Right. So it's not happening anymore. And I think that to a certain extent, that's bleeding into the NFL with, what you're talking about, what Eric brought up on Sandman to say, hey, we're just going to hold the defense on the field.
Yeah.
And almost all of the teams, all the good teams, have figured out these short yardage plays. And some of them aren't even doing short yardage plays. What
Yeah.
was the one? It was Pickens. It was Dallas on Sunday, where it was like 4th and 3, and Dak threw it down the left-hand field out of bounds, and Pickens went up and got it and toe
Yeah.
tapped and picked up like 30 yards on a 4th and 4, 4th and 3, where he just went, he's going to run a fucking slant out, and I'm just going to throw it out of bounds. And he's either going to catch it or nobody's going to catch it, and we're just going to give the ball up. And Pickens goes up and gets it and taps both toes, and they pick up 30 yards on 4th down.
Or
And
they get pass interference.
so many of or you get a pass interference, because like I was joking about last week that there weren't a lot of guys doing that Mahomes thing where he's basically just looking for a defender to touch one of his wide receivers, and then he just whips the ball at him while they're in the grasp. And then they're forced to throw a flag. And so many of the quarterbacks are figuring that out.
Yeah.
Where you can just see them slowly pattering sideways away from the defensive lineman and just looking for somebody to touch somebody so they can just throw the ball at a group of players and then point and then get their first down. So I do think that
It's a thing.
those two things paired together trap the defense on the field. You wear them down and you end up picking up extra points. And I think it's going to create that separation between the consistent teams and the inconsistent teams. And look, you're just looking for 56, 57%.
Yeah.
This isn't like, oh, you're going to crack this and then you're going to be able to pick everything correct.
Right.
But at this point, I'm at 54.5% for the year. Now, unfortunately, I weighted a bunch of these wrong. So I'm still like sitting in the middle of most of the pools we play in. But the reality is that, I'm 5 games away from being over that 56% mark. And I think maybe the idea will be we're just going to have to believe ourselves when we think the line just isn't big enough. And
Yeah.
just go, look, we look at a number, it's not big enough, even though it's so big that we wouldn't want to take it. I guess we're going to take it
Yeah.
and make Vegas catch up to us and ruin some games the other direction.
And they will at some point, and we'll feel it, and we'll be
Yeah.
like, I knew better. But for now, we have to adjust.
Yeah.
And the fact that, different, different podcasts, different, you guys are talking about it. When you were on the Sadman, you and I are talking about it. I know that these different sports gambling podcasts are talking about it. Everybody's aware of this. This is not rocket science, but for some reason, and everybody's trying to figure out what the reason is, that gap is slowly not being covered like it used to be for those backdoor covers, for those keeping it closer. And the person that cracks that code, it's not It's not that they're always going to know and it's not always going to work, but if it works 56% of the time, then
Yeah,
you're good.
you're up. You end up being up for the year.
So
And
speaking of,
I'm sure that there's people out there that are not talking and they have, because the other thing that's mixed in there that I don't have any way to analyze it really. I can't think of one at least. I don't have that kind of command over mathematics, is pouring this much more capital into the market is going to affect it.
yeah,
That is the reality. There is a different mix of sharp and square money coming in because now you can get in everywhere. You got the prediction markets even in states that don't allow gambling. You can go out to Novig and Kalshi and all that sort of stuff where you're buying predictive contracts and whatever the legalese around it is. Well, that's just pouring additional capital where you go. It used to be sharps and then people that were on vacation in Vegas or Atlantic City. So it's going to affect the way these numbers have to move around. And once somebody figures out how to harness that, that's where 3 or 4 years from now, there's going to be somebody that, flies around in their own private jet now because they figured out how to break this inefficiency and pour in on something that's not working because they were able to work out the math.
and then there'll be an adjustment after that, and it'll all go back. That's just how
Yeah.
Vegas works. But, uh, you know,
Right.
kind of what you were mentioning, though, I think that's very important to note is these markets when you pay attention to whatever app you're on or whatever research you're doing, you got to make sure that are you looking at like a DraftKings or a FanDuel, or are you looking at Vegas numbers? And I do think
Yeah.
that matters because you will still see more sharps out of Vegas because of limits.
Yeah.
You're
Without a
not going to
doubt.
see as big of limits on the FanDuels and the DraftKings and you know, even the Vegas
No, they're just
MGMs and
grifting people.
Circus online stuff. They're not going to go as high as the in-person bets because they still like seeing that money in hand. They still want to know who's making that big of a bet.
Yeah. Yeah. They get to see the people instead of just having amorphous profiles that are existing out there. It feeds them a lot more data,
Yeah.
but it's more of a marketing exercise. DraftKings and FanDuel have basically turned into, slot machines.
Yeah. Effectively. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're always tilting it away from you. And if you get good, they're just going to limit you. And so, but it still is interesting data points when you can go in and look at how those lines are different from other lines and see this is where they're grabbing value when you can take, some sort of, unabated has a calculator where you can go, hey, here's what the line and the odds are and compare different ones to each other and see where the actual predictive nature of it lays and which line is better. So, that gives you that opportunity to see where the more marketed companies are grabbing their edges from.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. So hey, speaking of all that and all that fun stuff and all these markets, we've got 3 games to talk about. Now that we've discussed the market to everybody, we've got 3 games to talk about where we think the market lies, and where the value is. And I think the biggest value for us on the week is New England, Atlanta, where New England is currently favored by 5.5 with Atlanta coming to town. Why do we think Drake May and company is not going to win this by a touchdown?
Yeah, I'm doing some very rudimentary math, and it's coming out with New England being the best team in the league.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're young. There's opportunities for guys to make mistakes and have to learn things as they go on this year. But at this point, looking at 8 weeks worth of data, this is the one that I don't see why this line is not 8.5 or 9.5 and pushing up against that 10, because Atlanta has proved for the last several weeks that if they can't get the run game going,
Yeah.
they don't have a way to work their way down the field. And New England is built to jam that up. And then they have this offense that just is continuing to move the ball. And so, yeah, less than a touchdown. We've got it at 5.5. I feel like this is going to be one of those years where we're going to be able to do the Chad special and just ride New England through the entire season.
Yeah. Makes me sick to my stomach, but the Chad special is definitely going to play here.
It
I'm
sure
all
seems
over
like it.
I'm all over New England here. I think that this is a classic case of coaching matters.
Yes.
Vrabel, the talent that's in New England is not that much different than what was there last year. There's a few players that have added. I mean, we get it, right?
Yeah.
Diggs is there. There's a couple guys, but at the end of
Right.
the day, this is where coaching matters. Vrabel is just a good coach. He's sound on the defensive side of the ball. He's allowed. He brought in McDaniels. We're back to this game in New England. This kid is developing appropriately, as you should develop a quarterback. You're not putting too much pressure on him. They run the ball. They throw screens. They do the things in a football game that is helping the offensive linemen. They drafted one of the best offensive linemen in the draft this year. They're doing the things right, and coaching matters. Why Tennessee couldn't do that with Vrabel, why they felt they had to get rid of him, I don't quite understand that. But with Atlanta coming to town, this is another instance where coaching matters, right? How are we not able to utilize a team and get the ball downfield that has the arm of Penix, a receiver like Drake London, a tight end like Kyle Pitts? You've got Bijan out of the backfield. Tyler Algier is fairly mobile. At one point in time, they had Cordell Patterson. I don't think he's still there, but I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, there's players there, and they're not able to execute, and that's coaching. So, in this instance, to me, at home in New England with a more soundly coached team who's on a 5-game winning streak, 5.5 is not enough. This should be 8.5, 9.5. Give me New England every day, all day.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Speaking of corporate malpractice, going back to Tennessee letting Vrabel out of that room, did you hear the interview with I can't remember what her first name is, Irsay's daughter that now
Oh yeah,
runs the Colts?
yeah,
They asked her about going down on the sidelines and wearing the headset, and she gave just a master class in going, like, here's exactly what I'm learning. Here's why I'm doing it. The fact that every owner isn't doing this and they're spending millions of dollars on coaches and general managers, and they aren't paying attention to understand what these people are doing and talking about during a game, and like whether they're just full of bullshit or not. And she's like, it is absolutely ridiculous that everybody isn't doing this. You own the team. You're paying for everything.
yeah,
Understand what these guys are doing. Now, obviously, it's easy to say all that when your team is burning everybody to the ground,
right,
you know,
right,
everybody had a lot more jokes week one when we thought Daniel Jones was washed and Richardson wasn't going to work. And now he's just wandering around the sidelines, high-fiving people as Jonathan Taylor runs into the end zone over and over again. But it was so clear that, like, as long as you don't start thinking that you know more than you know, if
yeah,
it's just, hey, I'm getting an understanding of what my employees are actually doing on a day-to-day basis, like any other company on earth,
Right.
you sound like you understand how to do things and you brought it over to, the NFL and went, yeah, I should have some sort of idea of what's going on with my employees. And you go, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. That's genius to come in at, one of the younger owners of a team and go, I'm
Oh
getting
yeah.
involved. Like I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I'm going to be listening. And that's exactly what Tennessee screwed up is their
Yeah.
owner was listening to the wrong guy.
Yeah.
They ran Vrabel out of the building. And then a year later, the owner had to turn around and go, oh, I have to fire you also because you're the
Yeah.
moron. And so now
Right.
I got to run you out of the building and my coach is gone. And you
Yeah.
just go, it's absolute malpractice to go, I'm going to turn over $1 billion corporation to a general manager and go, you figure it out.
Yeah.
So I
That's an
found that
amazing
very
point.
interesting.
That's an amazing point. I mean, I
Like
think it's
what other
fantastic.
CEO of a company just goes, I'm not having any conversations or I'm not going to, listen in when people are doing their work and pay attention to what's actually happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found that was
No,
very
that's really
interesting. We
cool.
brought
No,
up
I didn't hear
Vrabel.
that. That's
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Well, speaking of Indianapolis, they're on our list.
Yeah, they
So,
are.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, Pittsburgh, the the team that was supposed to be able to hang with Green Bay, just got, for lack of a better term, just embarrassed in their own home stadium by Jordan Love and crew. Micah Parsons got to run wild as he hasn't done yet, so he's feeling pretty good about himself, which leads to potentially some Packers fun later on. They're not in our top
Right.
five. I'm sure they could be.
Yeah.
But Indianapolis, I mean, why do we not think that the mold continues here with Jonathan Taylor running the football, Daniel Jones doing his job and executing, and Pittsburgh? I mean, Indianapolis has a decent defense too. I mean, they're
Yeah.
no slouches. Why do we think Pittsburgh's going to be even close?
I
Aaron
I
Rodgers, he's
don't.
40.
Luckily, for us in the Sandman pools, everything locked in at 2.5. So we get that opportunity to be able to win on a 3, but I don't even this is another one where you go, why isn't this a touchdown? Is it just priors? Like, is it just that Indianapolis came in so low and Pittsburgh has been winning games, but have been pretty consistently tailing off as the season went on? I don't, yes, Pittsburgh's now at home. Indianapolis is having to go outside. And if it was all high flying offense, then it would give me pause. But with Indianapolis having the 15th best defense, you go, that's reasonable to deal with Pittsburgh's 15th best offense.
Right.
And then you're running the second best offense out there for Indy against the 14th best defense for Pittsburgh. All I got to do is lay 2.5 points.
Yeah.
And they're built around the run game, which famously is an outdoor endeavor. This again just seems like one of those ones that historically you would go, this is a trap. And
Yeah.
maybe we'll find out that it is a trap. But I think this is one of those ones that we're going to look back on Sunday and go, I'm glad that we adjusted the way that we think about these games as Indy's winning by 17.
Yeah. You know, the trap you speak of is Tomlin's a good coach. He will
Hmm.
have his team prepared, and the defense in Pittsburgh, they're I mean, Watt, Porter, they've got some players. I think Ramsey's there. It's
Yeah.
not that I mean, they're going to be able to cover up Indianapolis's receivers. I don't know if they've got the run stoppers they used to have, but we
They
can
haven't
sit
been
and go, well, look,
executing.
yeah, look what Green Bay did. You never know, bad day. I don't know. It feels a little trappish to me, but I have no reason to believe that Indianapolis isn't going to continue doing what they're doing. And until they do, once again, I'm going to lean on the Chad theory, play the hot hand. I mean, why are we going to not play the hot hand here?
Because that Pittsburgh game last week was not, they got unlucky. They started off, they were hanging with them, and they ran out of gas.
Yeah,
They were doing
that's it.
fine. The first half, they were puttering along and they were making some plays and they were making a couple of stops. And then as they got later into the game, going back to what we were talking about, their defense is just older and they slowly lost a little bit of edge, a little bit of edge. And then Kraft just broke them and
Yeah,
just took a bunch of yards from them and ran them off the field. And I just, I think that this is one of those games to look at and go, don't get yourself hung up about laying points on the road. Take a top four team that's laying less than a field goal and go with it.
yeah, great. Last game of the week, and then we'll bounce through. We've got our Survivor to get through, and then we've got a new segment for our Power Five to talk
Yeah.
about. We've got Dallas and Arizona. A little bit of a scary one for me, being a Dallas Cowboy fan. I don't like them being in our conversation because they just naturally annoy the shit out of me. But there's no reason why this team offensively won't outpace Arizona. That being said, there's obviously defensive holes for the Cowboys. I worry that the Cowboys will let Arizona linger around. And as we were just speaking, this is one of those backdoor cover situations that make me a tad bit nervous. They don't happen as often as they used to, but I do believe that this is an area of concern. The number's at 3.5. My numbers say Cowboys should be 8+ better, just from a pure offensive generation perspective. The data says that. The fact that Aubrey can kick field goals from 70 yards consistently says that. So no reason why that's not the case. And I think that Dallas should walk away from this game and get themselves back on the right side of the win column.
Yeah. I totally agree. I love when you come in with the number on your side because it jumped out to me because in the Sandman pools, we're locked in at 2.5.
Even
We're
better.
either we're even on the right side of the 3. And the only thing I've heard from anybody that has an opinion about this game is either I don't want to get involved or I'm going to go Arizona because Kyler has historically played so well in Dallas, which is just it seems like one of those narratives that you go, sure, okay, but is that predictive in any way when it comes down to it? Every time he goes to Dallas, the team's a little bit different, the situation's a little bit different, Dallas is a little bit different. There's no way to nail that down and go, hey, we're going to take the quarterback on the lesser of the teams and just go, hey, they usually play. He has historically, since he was, in high school, playing well in Dallas. Like, you can't get yourself hung up on that.
No,
If you've
can't
got
do
some
that.
other analysis that you're looking at and going, here's where I think they're going to take advantage of it, by all means. Because again, this is a short line when you're
Yeah.
talking about one team that has been providing an incredible offensive output at home against a team that is inconsistent week to week. And you're getting it for less than 3 points. I don't know what the argument is. I think that we're way closer to this 8 number,
Yeah.
and that makes this something that you've got to take advantage of.
Yep. Totally agree. Totally agree. Brandon, I don't know if you know what the World Series is on.
It
We haven't
is.
talked about baseball.
No,
The Blue Jays are smoking the Dodgers right now, 5-1. It's
yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty
Team runs
crazy.
me, but
I'm very torn on this
I am
because,
too.
I don't really like the Canadians to have nice things, but I also don't really like the Dodgers.
Yeah,
If
it's
we could have got any other team here, I would be rooting hard.
Right.
for the AL team,
Man, if this was the
other
Mariners, I would
than
have been
like,
so happy.
yes, that's the MFer of this, is that I feel
Yep.
bad for Sandman. He gets
Yeah.
himself, pushed out.
So
But
close.
look, the the I the upside to a certain extent is that you got beat by a team and they didn't just go in and get buzzsawed and you just lost for nothing.
No,
If
they're
this team
pretty
can come
good.
in and they can beat them, and you go, look, we got beat by maybe the team that ends up winning the World Series. Obviously, you're not going to be happy about it, but at least you can go, hey, we got beat by the best team.
Yeah.
So,
Feel bad for him.
only one team can win the whole World Series. Everybody else has got to lose to somebody.
I can tell you I didn't have the Blue Jays on my bingo card, though.
No, I didn't really either. I kind of, throughout the year, obviously, I'm a big Scherzer guy, but, he's as old as I am. So, you can only root for a pitcher for so long. But, I always follow him a little bit coming out of Mizzou and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
But, the rest of their team, like, Vladdy Jr. is, a huge fan favorite from all the way back to his pops.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Man, he can
when the other
play good.
team's playing with billions of dollars of payroll, you just go, this sure seems like a buzzsaw sort of situation. And now, assuming that Toronto holds on here,
I
LA's got
mean,
to
they're
go
getting
to
ready to go back home
Canada
up
and win
3-2.
two.
Or, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's crazy.
It's real hard to win 2 games at the other guy's house.
It is. This is crazy. So,
Yeah.
very entertaining, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, bouncing through. We got a new segment. It's
Yeah.
an
Let's do it.
adjustment to our Power Five, right? So we've had our top five. We've been talking about our top five for a while. We've been wondering, how do we spice this up? So we decided we're going to not just give you a ranking of the top 32 teams. We're going to just kind of break it down into what we think of these teams. So this will
Yeah.
just be a fun segment, nothing too crazy. I'm going to share my screen right now, bring up this new interesting dynamic. This is the St. Louis Syndicate grid of shame. I don't know. We'll call it whatever we want to call it. The
Hey, as
grid of
we get
shame.
lower down, it's pretty
Yeah.
shameful.
Yeah. So our top five power teams, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Colts, the Seahawks, and the Packers. I mean, we needed to make sure that Bill was taken care of out there. The Sandman, the Seahawks were up there in the top five. They haven't done anything to lose that spot, so they're staying in there. Kansas City looks like world beaters. The Lions and the Colts, they're looking strong right now. The Packers stepped up. No reason why these guys shouldn't be in our top five. Anything you would disagree with there?
No, I think that, the ones that are hanging around as we get farther and farther into this is we got New England that's right there in the next tier. Um, and then obviously the Buffalo and the Rams in the next tier are ones that, especially in my household, we've got a nice 3 o'clock game coming our way this weekend that is going to figure out whether KC is really S tier
No.
and Buffalo is down in the should be better, or if they're gonna take us out behind the woodshed there in Buffalo and show us what's up. So it'll be interesting to see where we come back next week and kind of look at this and see if maybe Buffalo wins decisively and needs to come up to the top with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Pushing one of these other
I'd say
guys
that's going
out.
to be a move, right? That's going to be a move
Yeah,
for sure. Hey, right now they are in the should be better category, right? Who should be better? Buffalo should be.
yeah,
They stumbled. They were hot early. They stumbled. The Ravens, they should be better. They stumbled. The Vikings, they should be better. They have a Brian Flores coach defense. They have a great wide receiver core. They have a very sound running back. Their quarterback, okay, we're working through some pains. They should be
yeah.
better.
A little
The
questionable.
Houston Texans, are they the number one defense in the NFL? They're terrible, but they should be better. They for me, I
Yeah,
hardly ever pick them because they should be better. The Rams, man, that they're a bunch of misfits for some reason. I don't know if they're injury prone or what, but they should be better. You know, the Texas Longhorns. Oh, that's not an NFL team, Brandon. They should be better.
No,
For
but we got to
God's sake,
mix in
they've
some
got
other
Arch
guys.
Manning,
Yeah.
Steve
Right.
Scars. Hey, what do you think of our ass kicking, name taking, on the rise crew? You think Joe Burrow, or not Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow, he's down in the injury riddled section of
Right.
this group. Joe Flacco is he an ass kicker, a name taker, or is he on the rise?
We're gonna find out this weekend because it sounds like he's gonna be in there playing at home against Chicago.
Yeah.
But he showed up, kind of fell apart last week. That really wasn't necessarily his fault with the Jets figuring out how to score 3 or 4 times in the fourth quarter. That was pretty
Yeah.
wild.
That
But
didn't have a lot to
Jonathan
do with him.
Taylor
He took care of
definitely
business
deserves to
early.
be up there.
Oh, Jonathan Taylor's an ass kicker. He's an
Yeah,
ass kicker.
this hey, we're gonna score 2 or 3 touchdowns every week is part of why we have them in one of our top 3 games for the week because
Yep.
he has been so consistent at not getting bottled up.
The on the rise, is that the St. Louis Syndicate? Are we on the rise? We're not
Oh,
quite to the
without a doubt.
Sandman podcast level, but we're on the rise, or we name taken. We're keeping
We're
receipts like
coming for
Dia.
everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
coming for everybody.
absolutely.
Keeping receipts. So the man teams, right? This is the line in the sand. I kind of look at them and I'm like, all right, they really probably shouldn't beat any team above them, right? Should the Steelers really beat the Bills or the Ravens or the Patriots at this point? Should the Cowboys be beating the Colts or the Lions or the Chiefs or no, probably not. So that's kind of that meh line. Now, Eagles fans out there are screaming right now, we should be up there. We should be in the top 5. I don't care what Eagle fans say.
No, you got to start winning some games against some good teams before
Yeah.
I'm going to take you seriously.
So we've got our Free Willy segment, right? This is the poor bastards they just can't seem to get over the hump, right? That's Myles Garrett, man. The guys are just tearing dudes' heads off, creating
5
Morny's
sacks.
graveyard. God,
5 sacks and a loss.
yeah, we got to
There's
get
no
this
way
guy
you should lose a game where one of your players creates 5 negative plays in a game.
Unbelievable.
That should have ended 5 drives.
Free that guy, man. Jeez, and Baker Mayfield's doing his thing. That's funny. I said we need to free the Bucks, and you're like, well, Baker's doing his thing, but everybody else is just like a rocking boat of. They're like on the pirate ship.
They're getting absolutely thrashed. Just one person after another, just trading off wild injuries. So, hopefully he'll get a decent percentage of his team back. And, because they've won a lot of games. They are outperforming their spread pretty well, but you can't believe in them until they can kind of do it without Baker putting the entire team on his shoulders.
Yeah. Unbelievable. MASH unit, right? MASH unit's our medical team. San Francisco's been a medical ward all year. The Chargers really have too. They can't keep running backs healthy. I didn't even realize it though. I was looking at some of the Bears injury reports today. Like they have half their team as questionable. It's unbelievable, the Bears. So, and then Cam Scatterboot can't keep his ankle the right direction. Holy shnikes, that was an injury.
What a demoralizing situation for the Giants.
It
was so much fun.
They were turning it up, man. God dang. I hate it. And then the rest is nobody really cares, right? Does anybody care about those teams in that bottom?
No, you just want them to lose gracefully so that you can get your cover.
Yeah, they're irrelevant. Nobody cares. Oh, I thought I'd throw Brian Kelly out there for you. LSU.
Yeah. There's nothing like picking out a team at the beginning of the season and going, I don't think this is going to work. And then by the end of October, it not work to the point that they asked the guy to leave town.
To the tune of 50 million or 48 million.
Yeah. Penn State would have been the only better guess for
Yeah,
somebody at the beginning of the year to pick to fall as far as they're falling.
unbelievable, man. I'm telling you, unbelievable.
Yeah,
Well, hey, that's our a new segment. I don't know what we'll call it, but for now, it's just our top five with a twist. So it's something
exactly.
fun. Give us some feedback if there's something you want to see, Brandon. We're gonna need to come up with some different categories here as the weeks go on, but
Oh yeah,
um,
come up
it'll
with
be
some
fun
different
stuff. We're
quips
just gonna
every
kind of keep it.
week.
I see some graphs like this out every once in a while, so I thought, hey, this would be fun to make our own.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's that time that everybody waits for with us right here at Sandman Nation, the Survivor Picks, sponsored by the St. Louis Syndicate. Brandon, I think you said we're right at about 100 contestants in Sandman Survivor. Is that right?
That is correct. I think it's 101 if I
Wow.
remember correctly from earlier this week. So I
Is
think
that
I
out
think
of
about
500?
about that was out of like 650, something around there. Let me get you the exact number as we're
Eight
kind of
weeks, man.
talking.
We've lost 500 people.
633 entries. We're down to 103. The last
Well,
week
I'm out of
we
Sandman
lost
Survivor.
we lost quite a chunk on both of our risk reward plays last week.
Oh,
34 people
risk
on
reward was
Atlanta,
bad.
33 people on Cincinnati. Um, took a little bit of a bath there. So that was a nice chunk that pulled out. Yeah, it looks like we lost about um 70-ish people last week. So yeah, we're closing in on double digits. We're gonna look at um building out something that can kind of, as we continue to cut down, to kind of look at the teams that still have high percentages of their pick available to the group. And it will kind of start highlighting that in future weeks now that we're down to a manageable number of people.
Well, and we can really start giving some good insight because neither of us are left.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the one pool. I think you said you got one pool left that you're still playing in, but
I
yes,
do. I'm still alive.
unfortunately, we didn't make it through in our own sponsored pool. Um, so we can kind of keep giving you guys some picks, but everybody's gonna have to figure out some good decisions for themselves to keep themselves alive in this um 600-person pool.
Yeah. I'm alive still. I've got a there's 110 spots left in my the other one I'm in. It was a 580 person pool, so that's kind of fun. So I'm still
That's pretty
alive. I'm still
nice.
going to give some risk reward plays. But we still want to give some good feedback to you guys. And actually the top play this week is going to be Green Bay. It's a very clean play. Um, they are one of the top favorites of the week at 86%. They've got Carolina coming to town. There's really no reason why um, they wouldn't be considered a top play for this week. Brandon, our safe plays
Absolutely.
are the Rams. What are your thoughts on the Rams?
They, right now, they're edging out Green Bay a little bit on the line, though I think there's a chance that those might flip by the time we get to the weekend. Um, the only the only real risk here is that New Orleans is giving Shut his first start. So, he did not look good in relief last week. Maybe after a
No.
week of practice, something crazy happens, but this feels like a real safe situation if you haven't already used them earlier.
Yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree. So, Brandon, our risk reward. So, we sucked last week on risk reward, but remember, that's why it's
Yeah.
called risk reward, right? You're taking
Right.
the risk, and the benefit of that reward is that, you get to move on and maybe not lose a team that somebody else hasn't picked, or, you can avoid that big loss. In our instance this week, it caused our record to go from 6 losses to 8 losses, but we're back with risk reward this week, and it's the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we just kind of covered the Cowboys um, in our prior segment, so everybody's going to know here why we think Dallas should be able to handle this from a metric perspective and from an offensive perspective, and actually an all around perspective. It's not Kyler Murray. Just because he plays well in Dallas is not necessarily a great reason to think they're going to come in and take care of business. All
No,
that
no,
being said, it
exactly.
is a risk reward, just like last week, right? I mean, I guess there's always that chance Kyler Murray likes playing in front of his hometown and just beats the Cowboys again.
Yeah. The upside here is that this is the best place to play Dallas. So,
Yeah.
you're going to have to theoretically, if people keep surviving, make it through 18 picks, and it's going to get kind of tight here as we get into the double digit weeks. This is an opportunity where you can get Dallas, save one of these more consistently good teams to to prop you up later in the year.
Yeah. But if you follow that advice last week, you would be sitting on the
Did
sidelines
not
with
work
us.
out.
So,
No.
yeah, play at your own risk, right? Play at your own risk. Our plays
Exactly.
this week, Brandon. You and I are on the same team this week, my friend. We are both
Yeah.
on green.
Yeah, this feels like a little bit of a punt, but I think that personally I've already used the Rams, and like I've kind of been saying for a couple of weeks now, I still think New England's on the upswing. And then everybody else, they're I think there's better places as we go down the road. So,
Yeah,
we'll go ahead and burn the Packers here. Hopefully they will take care of business against Carolina. And hopefully the next time they're a huge favorite, they'll lose and eliminate a bunch of people.
yeah, yeah. I hate I hate the fact that the Packers are the favorite and they're the team that I'm playing. Because I kind of like to take a little bit more risk, but some of the teams that are in that middle area, New England, Indianapolis, Detroit, even, I've played. So I'm getting down to, right, we're halfway through. I'm having to be a little bit more strategic. And for this week, for me, it is survive and advance. Um, I don't see, there's a lot of good games. I really don't feel like we're going to lose a lot of players this week, Brandon. I'll be surprised if many people in our pools don't pick Green Bay, the Rams, the Chargers, you know, Detroit, Baltimore. I mean, there's a lot of good teams that could be taken and probably should win. Sounds
Yeah,
like
the
a great
Baltimore
money
one is the
line
one that hangs
parlay.
out there. Well,
Yeah.
the Baltimore one is where there's a lot of question marks, right? Like,
Yep.
if Lamar is as healthy, they seem to be saying that he is, then this should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But if, you know, we had the same situation with Miami last week, we went, Atlanta
Man.
is going to handle this just fine. And then Miami went in there and gave him a whipping. So, it's one of those things. If everybody's running at full speed, yeah, they'll bowl over Miami. But that's one where you're definitely going to see a cluster of picks trying to get through on Thursday night, and it's just a weird game. So we may see some people bounced there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Possibility. So that team playing Tennessee, the Chargers, they're traveling to Tennessee. I'm actually staying away from this one. I'm not even recommending it as a risk reward play. Um, I feel like the Chargers should take care of business here. I think in our picks and our pools, Chargers no problem. Man, I would hate for Tennessee to figure it out at home against a Chargers team that maybe has been down a little bit on the running backs and had a little bit of the injury bug. That's where they fall on our power graph. So just throw caution to the wind there. As a team playing Tennessee, they should win, but just kind of be cautious. Just kind of be cautious. And Brandon, that wraps up our show. Any last thoughts for the crew out there listening?
Hey, just think through the narratives that are getting put in front of you. And if you're like us and you're trying to find ways to find those underdogs, maybe just adjust a little bit and give yourself a little more room to get away with taking some of the favorites. And hopefully that'll work out for all of us.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys listening. He's Brandon. I'm Nate. We're the St. Louis Syndicate. Good luck with your picks.
Cheers.